Well, I think this video is pretty important. We've heard a lot of concerns over the last several months about sort of the future of blogging, of content marketing, and realistically, we share a lot of these concerns. There are unknowns about the future. So today what we want to do is we want to go through a lot of these concerns and address them and talk about why it is that we're still excited about the future of blogging. So let's take these one by one.
Yeah.
The first concern we've heard a lot over the last year has been just a lot of Google updates that have kind of decimated a lot of people's traffic, just seeming like Google's not really on our team.
This has been one that, like you said, it hasn't been as top of mind lately with some of the other concerns that we're also going to talk about, but this is one that is really demotivating.
Yeah.
You put so much time and so much effort into your website, and then Google takes half your traffic. In one day, half your traffic is gone. That is a significant problem.
It is.
And something that you definitely should be concerned about when you lose half your traffic.
The reality is Google is actually getting harder and harder to game. Search engine optimization, as it's traditionally been known, is struggling realistically, but content creation isn't. And we have a lot of websites that are just not seeing these traffic hits because we're focusing on creating helpful content, unique content, just doing things the way that we've been teaching it. And that's still been extremely effective. And so despite Google making updates, honestly, I think, say what you will about Google and what you think about them as a company and what they're trying to do, but I actually think that realistically, they're trying to provide the best content they can for people when they do their search. They want to make a good product for their customers. And I actually think that aligns pretty well with what we're trying to do.
Something really closely related to Google updates is kind of the rise to the top of the ranking page of big company websites or larger brands. A lot of small creators are really concerned that their content just won't be able to rank, that Google's really favoring these big websites.
And while we definitely see that, I honestly think that a few specific examples are probably driving a lot of that fear. So we do see this, right? You've seen this. You see everything in the health space. It's like if there's an article from WebMD, they rank at the top. So how do you possibly compete when there's somebody big in your niche? What we've seen is that Google is really trying to make sure that the content that they're providing is accurate. And so building up authority in your niche is important. But there are a lot of ways to do that. You don't have to be the biggest company. In fact, all the big companies and all the big websites once started out small too. But what we do have to do is we have to look at what factors show Google that we're reputable. And we've talked about so many of those things on this channel. There's so many things to do to improve our EEAT score, right, with Google. And one of them is simply just the content itself and making sure that we create enough of it and that we cover the topics that we're covering in depth and don't just be superficial.
Yeah, we do a lot of videos, or we have done a lot of videos recently about EEAT because it is so important. Google does see brand and large websites as something that's really important. And so we've been hammering on that. We want you to be successful, and we see how EEAT is impacting the industry and how if you do it, it can really buoy up your website.
Absolutely. The next big concern that a lot of people have right now is just really high competition. This comes from, first of all, years of people knowing that this is somewhere you could come to make a good, fairly passive side income, right? It also has been exacerbated by AI because people can literally just produce hundreds of articles in the blink of an eye. And the reality here is there's a few things we need to consider. One, more content doesn't necessarily mean really higher competition. Like we talked about with authority, people who create commodity content, something that an AI could generate on its own, it's content that's not well interlinked, it's content that doesn't go in depth on a topic, and it doesn't build any real authority. And the majority of that content doesn't get any real traffic because it doesn't do well in search. I'm seeing this all the time, people telling me, well, I have 500 articles on my website, and I don't make nearly the money that you guys say I should make in your video that says how much bloggers are making.
Right.
Like, that's because you're not being a blogger. You are being a content machine that literally uses a machine to make content and then posts it. That's not what we're talking about here.
Well, and people who use AI generated content they will have some success because content on the internet, we've seen it for years and years and years. Even really poorly done content will have some amount of success. But now where AI is a lot more mainstream, people are concerned a lot more about it because more people are doing it. If the owner of that website doesn't go in and significantly improve and add original value to those articles, they just don't perform as well.
The other aspect of competition is like the legitimate competition. And there are a lot more websites and there's a lot more content today than there was 10 years ago or even 5 years ago. When you're considering what you want to do online, if you're blogging, creating content, you're thinking about like, what's my niche? What can I do? You kind of have a couple options. And what most people tend to do is they do what they saw worked for other people. If you think that because this trail has already been blazed, now it's an easy path, it is an easy path, and it's an easy path to guarantee that you will make very little money. Whereas if you can focus on kind of blazing your own trail, even if it's just a little bit different than everybody else, you get to reap the reward. Pioneers get to reap the reward when it comes to business. Find something that is reasonably unique. And that's how we deal with like the real competition, not the mass-produced AI stuff.
This isn't to say that you just totally shouldn't use AI.
Yeah.
AI is a tool. There are some people who have taken AI and they use it in every aspect of their business. That's not something that I would do because it's just not the right fit for every business task that I need to do. But it's not this horrible thing that you should totally stay away from. You should use it if it's helpful, but that's the key. Use it in a way that's actually helpful and provides real value.
Absolutely. Now, the next thing that I've heard, this is like a huge fear for some people, is that nobody's going to go to my blog post anymore because they're just going to ask AI. First of all, like, I get that. I understand why people would feel that way. But what we've seen over and over and over again is disruptive technologies that people thought were going to do essentially just that. People thought with Siri and Alexa, like, man, blogging's going to take a huge hit. It didn't, because Siri and Alexa don't do a very good job of answering your questions.
You ask them the same question 3 times and they don't quite get it. So you end up typing it in.
I even sometimes I'm like, hey, set a reminder. I was going to say the name, but see, she would literally answer and set a reminder. I'm not going to do that right now. But I can ask to set a reminder and literally like half the words are just like wrong. And whatever, as long as it's enough to remind me, I don't really care. It's good enough, but it's not great. AI is making that better, but once again, all you're getting from AI is, let's take all the content that's out there that answers this question, and let's give the most average answer we can that doesn't really take a stance. And, you know, it's just the very basic, like surface level answer. I've been playing around with the new Google search. I've been playing around with it quite a bit, and the AI powered snapshot that they give you is always just high level. And really, if all people want is a high level answer, the Google snippet's already been giving that. If they want any more depth, the AI powered snapshot isn't giving them much more than the snippet already was. All it's doing now is it's able to take pieces from multiple articles and put them together instead of just one little snapshot from one article. So it's a little bit better experience for the user, but I'm not seeing that it's answering my question sufficiently for me to stop researching because, you know, I got 3 sentences that told me the answer.
The second part to this is that people are very slow to change their behavior.
Yes, they are.
You know, it is something it's actually a lot of times comical to see people how slow they are to adapt to new technology. Or new anything. We humans don't like change.
Yeah.
And in this case, where this is something that's a pretty new technology, it's going to be quite a while before it is really, really ingrained in people to start using it. I mean, think of the term, like, I'm going to go search something. We don't even say that. We say, I'm going to go Google something. I mean, we usually we use that as a verb now. And so that alone is just going to help. I don't know if delay is the right word, but it's just going to stretch that time where people start using AI. And I just think that, especially during that time, it gives us still opportunities to be very, very relevant.
And when we say they're slow, I'm not talking about like, it's going to be another 6 months or so after AI can do everything. I'm talking about it will be years that people will continue to read blog posts. And the reality is that even if AI gets better and better and better, people are going to want a human connection, and they're going to want to hear from other humans. And so human generated content, while it needs to adapt, is not going to disappear. I think the hypothesis that it's just going to, we're not even going to need humans to create content. I don't buy that. I absolutely don't. And now if you're one of those early adopters of new things, you hear us saying this and you say, that's not true. I adopt everything right when it comes out, and that's fine. You probably have an iPhone 14 and that's great. But I still have an iPhone 12 because it works really, really, really well. And I'm not even a slow person, you know? My mother-in-law, I love my mother-in-law. She got a smartphone because she was forced to, like a month ago, okay? Finally, we reached the point where she had to have one.
Yeah.
Most people are not early adopters. Most people aren't you. Most people aren't me either. And that's something that we all need to understand, is that if we make it the assumption that everybody else behaves the way that we do, we're probably not going to do very well in business.
All of these concerns that we've just kind of addressed here, they're all really valid. I mean, these are all things like when you're talking about starting a business, you would be stupid to not look at the things in your industry that are going to be of concern. But you also have to look at the other side. You also have to look at the reasons why, to see if the benefits outweigh the doubts, or the benefits outweigh the drawbacks, I should say. And in this case, we've identified some of the benefits of blogging and why it still makes sense to us.
I have to just really laugh whenever somebody says blogging is a stupid business. It's very risky. That just tells me that they either don't understand blogging as a business, or they don't understand what risk actually means.
Right.
So first of all, blogging has an extremely low financial barrier to entry. That's part of the reason there's so much competition. Mm-hmm. You don't need to spend a bunch of money to build this kind of a business. What are your alternatives to creating another income for yourself, for your family? If you want to start a business that's going to generate an income for you, in almost every case, you have to lay out a bunch of cash.
Yeah.
You can't do multi-level marketing without laying out a bunch of cash. And that's how you make so much money in multi-level marketing, because you get your 3 best friends to lay out a bunch of cash and you get a cut of it. And they all get their 3 best friends. And anyway, we're not going down that rabbit hole any further. The reality is, though, that most business opportunities that you're going to find that have a realistic chance of making you a good income are going to require you to lay out a bunch of cash.
Yeah.
This absolutely does not. You need a domain name and you need hosting. And you could probably get by with a free theme today, because even the one that WordPress gives you has full site editing now. And it's not as good as some of the really good themes, but man, it works just fine. You can make your website beautiful. You don't need anything fancy to get started. I think that in and of itself is amazing.
Yeah. Also in blogging, it can have a great ROI, especially when you take into consideration that there is very low upfront costs. The return on your investment it will be so great, because really what it takes is a lot of upfront work. So while you don't necessarily need financial capital, you're going to need time.
Right.
But most of us have some time. You know, I can look back over my weekend and say, oh, I spent a couple hours watching the TV. If I had spent that time writing a blog post, you know, what would that blog post do for me in 8 months? And if we look at our lives in that way, it's not even, we are giving up some things, you know, we are making an investment, but it just makes that ROI so sweet, that financial side of things, because you really had to put so little into it.
With the exception of investing in index funds,
right?
Any business you're going to restart is going to require time, and probably a lot more of it than you think. No matter how much, you know, the person that sells you on this business model comes to you and says, it's not going to take much of your time. It is going to take your time. There's a reason that people are pitching you business ideas and they want you to do the legwork for it, is because they don't want to do it all themselves. If it took no time to start up a McDonald's franchise, one person would start up 5,000 McDonald's franchises, but they can't. In fact, McDonald's wouldn't even franchise it because it would be easier to do it themselves. Every business opportunity that you have in front of you is going to require time. And the more I think about it, the more I think that blogging, content creation, and video, whatever, content creation businesses aren't going to take up more of your time than any other good, legitimate business opportunity that you could possibly do. If you don't want to invest any time in making money, then you just need to have a whole bunch of money you can invest in index funds.
Yeah.
There's no other option.
Something else that is a big reason for me why I love blogging is being able to create a business on the topic of my choice.
Yeah, it's amazing.
You know, a lot of times we get people who comment on the channel or in Project 24, and they're talking about this niche that they are so passionate about. And so many of them are just so happy to be able to engage in their hobby and have the opportunity or a chance even to make some money from it. I think that that's such a cool thing. You know, a lot of us, we go to school to do what we want to do, finance or, you know, being a, you know, law or an attorney. And that's good. And maybe for some people that is enough.
Yeah.
But that's also really broad.
Yeah.
You know, what does the day-to-day look like? Do you, you know, as a finance person, do you really love tax season when you're working tons and tons of overtime? Probably not. And that can be said about anything that you do. But I just think it's so cool that you get to start a business doing something that you love. It could be canoeing, it could be, you know, snowboarding, it could be anything that you want that you could create a website on. And I just love that.
Yeah. I talk to a lot of people who are business owners, and they're just like, it's really cool how much stuff I'm able to I can write off from a tax standpoint. If it's an expense that can be justified as a business expense, then cool, I can pay for that with tax-free money. Yeah. It's amazing. Now imagine getting to do that with like your favorite hobbies or your favorite topics. Literally anything you buy related to your favorite hobby can now be justified as a business expense. It's pretty incredible. Now, another reason that blogging is actually still really working well for us and that we're excited about it is we're careful to not limit ourselves from a mindset standpoint. It's really easy to look at this and say, well, blogging, the way blogging was done 7 years ago, doesn't work that well today. Okay, sure, that's absolutely true. Neither does any business. The reality is that business, just like everything else, is constantly evolving. And so it's best to just not have such a limited mindset. Today, if you are open to creating video content in addition to blog content, your chances of success and really like the time it's going to take to succeed, it's all going to go up. You'll probably be able to make a much better income too. So if that's in your wheelhouse, do that. If you can do podcasting, if you're into social media and you can engage with other people, there are so many different ways that you can be successful with content creation. And there's no one that you have to stick to. Just learn the ones that you really like and take advantage of multiple different forms of media, and your chances of success go way up. And frankly, I think it's more fun to do a mix.
These are the pros and cons for us. You know, we have our own fears. We have our own reasons for continuing blogging. I think you probably have your own fears and the reasons why you continue to try to blog. We'd love to hear it from you. You know, why are you still trying to make this work? We probably each have our own reasons. You know, we've done our own benefit versus cost analysis, and we'd love to hear it from you. What is it that keeps you blogging? For us, it's something that we love. It's something that we still see as an incredibly viable business model. And so we're going to keep doing it.